Hello, dear friends. Today we'll continue exploring the memoirs of a German non-commissioned officer. Don't forget to rate this video and share your thoughts in the comments. And now, let's begin. We were driving into the unknown darkness of the night, filled with the roar of engines. Parachute rockets fell from beneath the clouds. The ground shook from heavy explosions. Incendiary bombs flared up. Anti-aircraft fire, bright flashes of rockets in the darkness launched from rocket launchers, artillery duels. The entire battlefield was framed by a semicircle of flickering signal flares, constantly changing in their silent message. "We're here, comrades! We're here!" The endless cry of the sprawling front line. We continued moving toward it. The mud glistened dully, like lead in the light of the flashes. The clatter of hooves echoed hollowly along the road. The ruins of a dead city came into view, where the only living things were the sweetish smell of smoke and ourselves, the masters of this land, who had ventured so far from the other one, where our women and children live. We continued on our way the next morning. I had made this same journey 3 times. All that could be heard was the creaking of saddles and the clanking of stirrups. The hour of utter indifference was setting in, when you become blind and deaf, unable to think of anything but sleep. Then came another hour, the moment when you can immerse yourself in the flow and come to your senses. When you feel a little better, except that your eyes are still half closed and sensitive to light, and your throat is parched with unbearable dryness. My little horse neighed until morning. She always neighs. You can see her from a distance. She's small and strong. Her voice is hoarse and rough, and when she lets it out, her ugly muzzle reminds me of Leonardo da Vinci's works, so repulsive and yet so deeply impressive. Not an hour goes by during the day without the air being filled with the roar of fighter planes and dive bombers. The Junkers 87 returned, flying low overhead. In high spirits, its pilot sounded his dive siren. Our horses went wild, but we still appreciated the friendly greeting. There's always a sense of great unconscious joy when members of 2 different branches of the military meet during a joint operation. The pilots wave to us from above, and we look up, craning our necks, and wave back. We're moving into a new area, and we can hear the mud mixed with water squelching under our feet. Mosquitoes had swarmed all around the horses' necks, looking like red ruby necklaces. When we returned from the new observation post, the artillery train was just rolling away with its last gun. The driver's shouts echoed through the empty space between the 2 villages. In the background, the horror of the fiery hell continued. Monstrous columns of smoke, dark, white, and purple, with new ones constantly rising, soared into the sky, the result of relentless artillery barrages that shook the ground and made the window panes rattle. Squadrons of our and enemy aircraft were cutting each other down in the air. There were many of ours. A Russian bomber was blown to pieces by a powerful explosion, and burning debris rained down from the cloud of smoke. August 22nd, 1942, 7 a.m. For an hour and a half, we were under a barrage of fire, rocket salvos, heavy mortar strikes, and tanks. Fighter planes attacked 5 times. Tanks broke through on the left flank. A direct hit on the command post. The telephone was shattered to pieces, but there were no other casualties. Fire control was moved to our personal dugout. Several tanks in front of our position, all ablaze. Concentrated charges are on standby. In close combat within range, we'll use hand grenades and a submachine gun. The main assault is being launched against the adjacent sector, 500 meters to the left. 7:30 a.m. Fierce barrage fire. I stepped into a crater, getting mud all over my back. Mortars and katyushas, Stalin's organs. 8 a.m. Infantry attacking at the northern edge of the forest. Ludwig Barrage. An enemy battery is shifting position on the slope to the southeast. We're out of ammunition. Rosenberger 3 is firing. 8:20. Our own battery is back in action. We're using delayed action shells. All guns have opened fire on the infantry at the edge of the forest. 8:25. Finally, dive bombers. We're firing rocket launchers to mark the targets. 8:30. Hooray, they're diving. 8:35. Fighter bombers join the battle. Bombs and machine guns. Visibility has decreased due to the explosions. Over there, at the Russian positions, they're evacuating the first wounded. 9 a.m. The company advances to the southeast corner of B. Now there are 2 companies here, along with horse-drawn artillery and supply vehicles. Order to open fire. Main aiming line 235 plus, vertical aiming 7,200. 3 hits. 9:30 a.m. The infantry attacks through Ludwig barrage fire, supported by tanks. 10:20. They almost defeated us. But over the past 20 minutes, a hail of bombs has rained down on the forest ahead of us. One heavy bomb was dropped 200 meters from the main line of artillery positions. The ground shook. The forest was engulfed in clouds of smoke from the explosion. 10:25 a.m. The Rate are attacking. Our fighter planes destroyed 4 Russian vehicles in 3 minutes. 10:30 a.m. And tanks again. The anti-tank guns are firing like mad. 10:35 a.m. Watch out, fighter planes. Another attack. Report. Tank hit. The 3rd victim of our little gun today. 10:37. New concentration of fire on B. 15 horse-drawn wagons and a company. Order to open fire. Charge number 6. Impact fuses, all guns. 10:45. On the left are dive bombers. Rate is ahead of us. Behind us, the village of Tabrakovo is ablaze, black smoke and red flames. 11 o'clock. The 4th tank has been destroyed by our 50mm anti-tank gun. The 76mm gun has a couple more to its credit. 13 in total in our battalion sector. 12 o'clock. Today, the communication line to the firing position worked for exactly 5 minutes. Then it was torn to pieces again. Now it's melting in the fire in Tabrakovo. We continue to adjust our fire via radio. Hello, Red 1. Send your report. 12:20 p.m. The 14th tank has already been set ablaze. The 5th by our small anti-tank gun. A direct hit on a large gun put it out of action. 2 tanks broke through, but the 88mm guns took them out before T deserter. The Russians arrived from Moscow just yesterday. They're conscripting everyone between the ages of 14 and 50. A few days ago, we captured one who was only 13. 3:30 p.m. The fighting is dying down. Dive bombers are making their 6th or 7th run. The tanks have retreated into the forest. As a result of our fire, the trees were shattered spectacularly into splinters, their debris scattering menacingly in all directions. It was estimated that there were about 400 men in the forest ahead of us. It probably seemed like more than enough to them at that moment. 5 p.m. A rocket barrage right above us. Dust and a foul stench. We pressed ourselves even closer to the ground. Shouts. Pabst? Meisner? All clear. Keep firing. Our 3rd shot resulted in a perfect hit on the enemy artillery position. 4:45 p.m. The signalman returned with the news that our taciturn General Rittau had been killed. By evening, everything had quieted down. A machine gun was firing tracer rounds. The Russians were withdrawing their surviving tanks. We had blown up the rest. We're standing in the company headquarters, talking about the general. The men used to curse him because he was so demanding. Now they say he was the embodiment of the division. And this is a good division. He was a man of few words, and he had nerves of steel. They say the food was bad in the division. When he was served an exquisite dish, he would stare at it in silence for a while, and then ask, "Is this what my infantry is being given?" That was our general. August 24th, 1942. 4:15. The third day of the battle. It begins simultaneously on the ground and in the air. 4:45. For an hour and a half, fierce, storm-like fire raged in the sector on the left flank. Yesterday at 12:30 a.m., I returned to the firing position for a 2-day shift, but last night I had to go back up again. Lieutenant D. Spengler was killed. A direct hit on the observation post. We spent the night building a dugout. I don't know what time it is now. Both of my watches stopped working during the battle. I only know that the shelling has been going on since 4:45, and it's hard to believe that a few square meters of land can withstand such a barrage of metal tearing it apart. 7 o'clock. A brief lull. Not much artillery fire. We dug 2 dugouts, one to serve as an observation post and the other for our radio operator, 80 meters to the rear. Several shells exploded between them. They damaged our cable. One of the 120mm shells landed 3 meters from the radio dugout and shattered the beam above the entrance to Christiner. Lieutenant Mack and I looked like we'd been through hell. We crawled between the cabbage patches to repair the cable. Telephone communication was impossible amid all that din. They launched a mortar attack just as I was halfway up the hill. A carpet of rocket fire rained down on me as I lay in the crater left by a 120mm shell. The construction of the new observation post was completed just in time for morning. It's a miserable little hole and quite damp. We have to crawl around. After 10 minutes at the telescope, my neck gets stiff. But I'm glad we can see so far. We'll make up for it tonight. I can't wait for evening to come, Christiner just told me on the phone. I feel the same way. As of today, our little anti-tank gun has taken out 5 tanks. Yesterday, the regiment's tally stood at 58. One broke through today where Franz Wolf was stationed with the signalman in the left sector. We shook hands when we met yesterday. At the battalion command post, they told me about this 2 days after he'd managed to send the report. "Tanks! They're firing!" Then he ran over there with his headset and everything else wrapped around him. He didn't hear the tanks until they were 10 meters away from him. They've been advancing here since early July. It's unbelievable. They must be suffering terrible losses. A fierce battle is raging for every scrap of land. Day after day, we're smashing their concentration areas. They rarely manage to deploy their infantry even within range of our machine guns. We see bomb craters. We see them dragging away the wounded. Their tanks are immobilized. Their planes are being shot down. They run in fear and helplessness when our shells land right under their noses. But then they reappear, moving out into the open, and rush into the woods, where they come under sweeping fire from our artillery and dive-bombing bombers. Of course, we're suffering casualties too, but they're nothing compared to the enemy's losses. 6 p.m. I time it by the sun. Another attack. It's coming from the left again. Tanks are rolling into the attack, and how? You can hear them perfectly clearly. You can almost see them crawling forward with a grinding sound and predict to the second when they'll reach our defensive lines and begin their yapping fire. But our artillery is already in action. The forest is blanketed by fiery shell explosions and clouds of smoke. Machine guns are rattling. The effect of the flying shrapnel must be terrible. Meanwhile, far behind us, Anti-tank guns opened fire, but it lasted only between 15 and 30 minutes. Then it fell silent. Now we hear the rumble of a new tank attack. So far, nothing is happening. Seconds pass, one after another, and not a single shot is fired. Don't open fire. Let them get closer. Through the binoculars, I can see a burning house. The smoke from the artillery explosions is being swept aside like fog. There is no visible movement on the enemy's side. A little later, in the evening twilight, all hell broke loose again. Mortars, tanks, machine guns. But of all the attacking infantry, only a couple of defectors reached our positions. Then it quieted down again, and we spent the second night working on building our dugout. Now it has a good roof, a solid protective layer of bricks, and an earthen buffer against ricochets. We also dug a communication trench so we could crawl through it between the two dugouts. August 24th, 1942. The day began early with an attack by fighter planes flying at low altitude. In addition, rocket launchers opened fire, sending white bursts of flame soaring into the sky every hour from enemy positions in the forest. Several tanks and mortars sent us a mixed bag of their morning gifts, but overall it was quiet, and there was little movement on the enemy's side. We even went outside a couple of times to sunbathe behind the dugout, 2 5-minute sessions. A strange sight unfolds when you pause for a moment at the entrance to the dugout. The guys have scattered among the cover, behind broken garden fences, in haystacks, in weed-choked fields, and among the ruins of burned-out houses. Sometimes someone comes into view, making their way along the road, bent over double. For a moment, their steel helmet glints. They were always on alert, ready to dive into cover at a moment's notice. The click of a machine gun bolt could be heard, along with the occasional short cry. For the most part, between bursts of fire, it was quiet. But the tension was palpable. Tonight, I'll be relieved. I was making my way back at dusk. The last squadron swept over the forest with the wail of sirens. The shelling grew more intense, the explosions more haphazard. In the sky, a sea of chaotic lights from tracer bullets and shells, volleys of katyushas, and red, green, and white flashes that appeared as if by magic in the soft evening sky. Then we were simply inundated with food, so I was able to offer Franz Wolf some schnapps. Suddenly, we were all together, and it was nice to see the faces of our good old comrades again. There's always something wonderful about meeting each other alive and well. Meisner was there, waiting for his turn to take the post. Christiner asked, "Haven't they shot you yet, buddy?" "No?" "Well, you're lucky." "They put a hole in my jacket," said Franz. "I just patched it up." "So what? Look at my pistol holster," replied Meisner. "We all agreed that you feel completely defenseless when you're up there." "But now you're with all of us," Christiner declared. "When you're with the group, you don't pay attention to what's going on, and you wouldn't want to be anywhere else. When I got back from vacation, I found the 11th, but when they told me the battery was moving forward, everything was fine. I guess times are changing." Just now, the battery is firing a rapid volley, the second one this evening. The black smoke from the flash-suppressed rounds means the muzzle flashes aren't always visible. The breech blocks slam shut with a dull thud. The chambers rattle. Then you hear the signalmen's voices again. "Hello, Red 2. Nothing new here." Clear and distinct, though almost monotonous. You can feel how smoothly everyone is working together. The observers up top, the signalmen, the artillerymen. Since yesterday, I've been back at the forward outpost. I didn't sleep a wink last night. First, there was artillery fire from the enemy. Then our artillery opened fire. We've reinforced our dugout even further. Today is calmer. Dust and smoke are still slowly seeping in through the entrance, but as long as a beam doesn't shift or a huge chunk of earth doesn't fall into a soldier's mess tin, we don't pay it much attention. The day is drawing to a close. My steel helmet feels heavy, and my tongue is going numb from smoking too much. The sun peeks into the dugout. How nice it would be to take a sip of wine. I pick up a dusty bottle, hold it in the swirling, sunlit smoke, and admire the play of colors, green and red. Well, doesn't she look just like the Spanish Madonna with a mantle like that? My neighbor to the side is sprawled out, fast asleep. In his sleep, his face is pale and pained. I can see stubble on his chin. We have a Russian blanket that we use to cover our legs and, if we can, our ears as well. In fact, only one of us sleeps at any given time, but on a cold night, there's enough room under it for two. A little later, Lieutenants Mack and Klass arrived, and Hans and I headed back. We tightened the straps on our steel helmets and hurried on. It's not exactly pleasant to be waiting for a bullet while walking across a barren hill on a moonlit night. We wanted to leave it behind as soon as possible, to pass the numerous shell craters, the trampled, scorched, and rutted wheat field in front of T, and the crossroads, riddled with craters and gaping potholes. The sentry at the anti-tank gun politely asked us for the password. Then we passed a damaged tank, and after that, the low-lying area where we always light up a cigarette. That's all for today. If you liked the video, please show your support with a like and subscribe to the channel. Bye for now, everyone. See you next time.